Upcoming episodes on the Flying Monkey podcast. Country music artist Grant Malloy Smith. 3-time Grammy Award winner Ricky Cage. Actor-musician, the one and only Chris Mulkey. Father's rights advocate Robert Garza. And new episodes of Parent Stories. Go to flyingmonkeypodcast.com and select your favorite social media site to join us. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Rumble. And don't forget to check out our sponsors, Open Darkness and Stop the Abuse. You can find more information at www.hopeanddarkness.info, a common sense solution to parental alienation. Let us help you get your kids back. And www.stoptheabuse.info. It's time for change. Together, we can stop the abuse. You're watching the Flying Monkey Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Flying Monkey Podcast. Today, we have a very special young lady here with us today. Her name is Taylor Rae Jones, and she's been through quite a few different situations. So we're going to talk to her today and have a conversation about being an alienated child and also being part of a relationship where children were alienated from her husband. So how you doing today, Taylor?
Doing good. Glad to be here.
Good, good. Well, welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you on. So why don't we touch base a little bit about being a child who's been alienated? So you were alienated from your mom or from your dad?
From my dad.
Okay. All right. And how long were you separated from your dad?
So the full alienation started at around age 10 to 11. And then we reconnected on my wedding day, actually, in 2015. There was at least 10 to 11 years of alienation, full alienation.
So you had no contact with him at all?
Exactly. He was forced to give up his rights to me and have my stepdad adopt me with the promise that he could keep in contact. But of course, that was just a lie. Another one out of the many.
Children. And for folks watching, alienation is child abuse, and it's domestic violence using the child against a targeted parent who they're trying to keep out of their life and the extended family. Because when you keep a mom or a dad out of the child's life, that goes with grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody else in the family on that side. So it's very abusive. It's very harmful to the child and as well as to the people who are being alienated from the child. And it's just attachment, Dab, and just what it is, what it comes down to. There's a lot of philosophy, a lot of psychological people out there doing things that it's not some magical thing. It's like Stockholm syndrome, and the child has to find comfort. So if they're in a bad situation, how are you going to be comfortable? You have to abide and suppress whatever you really feel and do whatever your captor, because they're being held hostage basically. So their captors are controlling them, and they have to do whatever they have to do to feel comfortable in that situation. They have no other option. And it's pretty heavy duty stuff. So the reason I kind of explained that a little bit was my question to you would be, I mean, obviously there was some lies told to you that you believed, and were you angry and hateful towards your dad believing those lies, or what was your experience?
Well, like you said, there's different levels of abuse. You start from, a little bit lower. I think it kind of got gradual and got worse towards the end, to where I had turned fully into almost hating him, because when I did have contact with him when I was, younger than 10, the environment was just not pleasant. Because from an adult's perspective, he was working 3 jobs. He was under a credible amount of stress. He had a family. I had a stepmom and another sister that he was having to take care of. My mom was just making his life miserable. Anytime I would come home after a visit, it was interrogation. Who was there? Who were you around? And at the time I had asthma too, and my stepmom had smoked, and she made the mistake of smoking around me. And I let my mom know that, 'cause she asked. and it blew up. So it was just constant chaos. So that made him just not ever happy. He was always depressed and stressed. So I never wanted to go over there. And I didn't understand why. I thought it was me, not what was going on. So I started refusing to go over there because it
Okay.
was my mom made holidays a competition. My dad couldn't afford a lot of Christmas gifts, or my birthday is December 29th. So it's around Christmas too, double whammy there.
Yeah.
And my mom would always go full on, tons of toys, everything. And he could only get me a few things. So, in a child's mind, who are they going to like better? The person baiting them with a bunch of toys, or the parent that only can get, a couple toys here and there? So there was a lot of that going on as well. And most people think with parental alienation that it's just mental abuse or emotional abuse, but it's also physical.
Yeah.
Um, so there was a lot of that as well.
Yeah. No, I know. I know that too well. I've seen that too. But did she ever suggest to you that it was okay if you didn't want to go see your dad when you started to did she encourage that or support that?
I don't remember anything specific that
Okay.
she would say directly to me, but I remember her saying things to my dad. Taylor doesn't even want to go. Taylor doesn't like being over there. She would kind of like speak for me. And I'm
Yeah.
more speaking of, I don't like the environment over there. I know one particular time, stepmom wanted to go and get her nails done with me, or go get my ears pierced, or, something, go do something together. And I would have to call my mom and ask. And she goes, no, you're not allowed to do that. We're not doing that. And as soon as I would get home from that visit, we would go and do those things, me and my mom together. She
Wow.
just didn't want me doing them with her.
Yeah. Well, no, exactly. And so she is all about her. So, and then so the thing that's really that I picked out when you were talking is that she would be on the phone with your dad telling him all these things. Oh, she doesn't want to go, da da da. But you heard all that. So
Right.
that's kind of an indirect way of alienating, and that's just, and it just makes it supportive for you to make those decisions when you're confused and lied to and misled and, coerced. So yeah, it's a pretty tough situation. So then what was it that caused or started or sparked you to reunite with your dad?
So the kind of the pinpoint for me, the turning point, I always say, is when I was 17. I was able to apply to a medical program at the community college. And I was 17, I was in high school, and I was interested in going into the medical field at that time. And my aunt, my dad's sister, ran the program.
Wow.
And for the life of me, I will never understand how or why my mom allowed me to do that, no one who ran the program. But she always liked my aunt. It was just my dad that she hated. So I did the program. And at the end of the program, my aunt said, I want to give you your dad's cell phone number. Why don't you reach out to him? And I'm like, why would I do that? He's had nothing to do with me. He doesn't call. He hasn't asked about me. Why would I do that? And she's like, you really need to hear his side of the story. Just text him. You don't have to call, just text him. I was like, okay. Like, what's it gonna hurt at this point? So I started texting him here and there after that. And then the actual turning point was my high school graduation. So by that time, we had kind of built a little bit of connection. And I'm like, I'm going to invite him to my high school graduation. He's missed out on over half of my life at this point. At least he can have this. And I had told my mom, hey, I've been talking to my dad. That was a mistake. Um, she blew up on that one. And I was like, I'm going to invite him to my high school graduation. That's the least I can do. And she told me, Taylor, I'm not going to be caught dead in the same auditorium as him. So you're going to either have to choose him or you're going to have to choose me. So I regretfully, at that point, like, do I choose my mom, who's been in my life, the whole time? Or do I choose my dad? I'm just going to have to trust my dad that what he's telling me is the truth. So there's a lot of like mental back and forth, tug of war with myself. And I ended up unfortunately choosing my mom to go, but she allowed my aunt and her two daughters to go. So at least they got to experience that. And I later apologized to my dad. I said, I just, at that point, I wasn't strong enough to stand up to her yet.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so
Well, it's a lot of control that they have over you. So, like when you were talking about why did she let you go to that school with your aunt? She felt that she had you locked in. Like you're not going to talk to your dad. You're believing everything. She doesn't have to worry about losing you because it's a lot of insecurity, is what it's deep down in some of these people. They're so worried about the child loving the other parent more. And that's a horrible thing. They can love both of them, no problem. So, it's the way it's supposed to be, but they keep you from them. So then after the graduation, when did you finally start to have a consistent, like meeting your dad face to face and rebuilding that relationship with him?
it wasn't until several years later, actually, because a lot of things transpired. So after I graduated high school, newfound independence, I started working and I started paying for my own cell phone because she would take that away even at 18. Um, the car that I had was in her name. And of course, it's something that she could control. And it was, I'll sign the car over to you when you get your AA degree. I'll sign the car over to you when you get your bachelor's degree, so on and so
Huh.
forth. So I was like, well, okay, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to pay for my cell phone so she can't take away. And so they had a tracker on my car.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I had a curfew. I was working. I was paying my car insurance, paying gas, pretty much everything except rent at this point, and going to college full time. And I had had enough of this tracker. I drove to different automotive shops asking if they could disable this tracker. And unfortunately, I should have lied. I should have said it's a boyfriend that put it on there. But I was like, no, my mom put this on my car. They're like, is it in your name? I was like, no. They're like, we can't touch it. I'm like, okay, what do I do? And so I sat there and tried to disable this tracker. And yeah, it alerted them, of course. So she took the
Yeah.
car away. So things were really, really bad.
Oh,
And it
wow.
was 4th of July, 2012. And I'd had enough. I've had it at that point. And I said, we were at a friend's house celebrating 4th of July. And he's actually a family law attorney, coincidental there, or coincidence. And I'm like, I'm going to stay here for a few days until things cool off. And my mom was not having that. So she went back into their house, grabbed my stuff, and she was trying to put it into my car to say, all right, let's go. I said, I'm not leaving. You
Yeah.
can't make me leave. I am 18. You cannot make me leave. So I went to grab my stuff from her. So we're pushing and tugging with my stuff. My stepdad picks me up and body slams me to the ground and drags me by my stuff on the concrete.
Oh, wow.
So I'm hysterical at this point. I have blood on my legs from being pulled on the concrete. I call the cops, and they had been drinking. And they're like, well, we have enough evidence to arrest them for domestic violence, your mom and your stepdad. And the friend that owned the house that was living there, and it was, of course, an attorney. He goes, Taylor, you really need to think about your next move here because we're like, you could ruin their lives. And I was like, I just want them to leave. So I ended up not pressing charges. They left, and I ended up being gone for about 2 months. And unfortunately, the living situation, I had to go back. And that's when I met my now husband. And there's another thing. She didn't want me falling in love.
Oh,
I don't know
no.
if it
Can't
was
love
a
anyone else but her. That's all. That's how messed up the alienators are. It's all about them, total control.
I just she the thing she would say too, she met him once. She looked at his Facebook and met him once. He reminds me of your father. You could do better. Sitting here almost 13 years later, we've
Oh,
been
boy.
married and together. Really, just I mean, of course, I didn't know that then, but even at that time, she's like, "Why don't you date the engineer in the office next to me? He makes good money." I said, "He's late 30s. I'm 19 at this time." And I was like, no, I'm just going to persevere, do my own thing. So it ended up a couple of months. We met in December of 2012. And a couple of months after that, I ran away from home because things had gotten so bad.
Are you a victim of parental alienation? HopeInDarkness.me introduces a House on Fire Academy, the only online training program to help you rescue your kids. Become certified in the application of science-based court rescue skills. The program includes classes, courts rehearsals, proficiency reviews, inarguable evidence collection, motion development proficiency tests, and certificates. Sign up today and start the journey to getting your kids back.
So fast forward to 2015, I had talked to my dad on and off throughout the years. And honestly, I was just so afraid to meet him in person.
Oh, yeah.
So I did a lot of talking. He had
Yeah.
very open communication. And I had always dreamed since I was a little girl of having my dad walk me down the aisle. And that's something that I never thought I would get to do. And I got to do it. The first time I saw him and we reunited was on my wedding day.
That's
And he
awesome.
walked me down the aisle.
That's great. Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, and that's the horrible thing too, is beyond I mean, it's physical, psychological, emotional abuse that these parents put on these kids when they alienate them. But also then the anger is really more the guilt that the child feels, because even though they don't even know they feel it, because they've been ignoring or blocking them or staying away, and there's that guilt that's deep rootedly down inside them too, and so that causes the fear of, well, I'm not going to go there, I'm not going, and it keeps them, a lot of kids, from actually taking that first step to talking to their parent, and it's proven that the attachment and the attachment system is like the most important thing I think humans have. So when they mess with your attachment system, it really messes us up. And they do it, society does it to us in many different ways. But when it's done through parental alienation, it's pretty heavy duty. And they've proven, there was tests done and experiments done, and it shows that the attachment's always there. It's
Mhm.
just suppressed. So once you get past all those feelings and you reunite, did it take a long, I guess I'm like, that's leading to my question is, like, you said, like, you're kind of hesitant, you're texting, you weren't quite sure if you wanted to do it or when to do it. And there's all those questions in that struggle that you have to go through. How quickly were you guys kind of, once you saw each other face to face at the wedding, then how quickly did it kind of just mesh and you kind of guys start falling into place with each other again?
It was just awkward because I had so many
Yeah.
questions. And of course, our fridge broke that day of my wedding. So I was like an hour and something late. So as soon as I showed up, locked arms. I was like, all right, let's do this. So all the whole way, tons of pictures that I have, you can see that we're talking. We're talking down the aisle. And I was just asking them a couple questions. So there wasn't even any time. It was just head first into and even to this day, it was I I thought about this really deeply. Our relationship is never going to be what it should have been because of what she's done. So our relationship is more like friends. I'm trying. I've never had a relationship with my dad or a relationship like a father figure because I never considered my stepdad a dad or a father
Yeah.
figure.
And your
He was
dad
very
wasn't allowed
toxic,
to be there. So,
right? So I don't even know what that's like. So the
yeah.
best way I can explain it is like friends. And I'm working on getting a more deeper relationship as I'm watching my husband be a father to our children is kind of helping me heal a little bit and kind of see how it's supposed to be the protective type and all the characteristics. So like I have nothing to base it on what it should be. It
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
it feels different.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. And it's hard, because everyone's got their ways of doing things, and some people are more open than others. But, lots of hugs and just in love, and let it out. Just let it out. Just let go and let it out, and just, maybe surprise them. If you don't hug them all the time, maybe next time you see them, just run up and give them the hug, just like the little ones do with daddy or mommy when they come home. just do it. See how it feels.
But I do have a plan. He's coming by next month in November to see me and the grandkids. So
Cool. Very
look
cool.
forward to that.
Yeah. And that's another thing, bring them in, bring them into their lives and let them be grandpa too, and let them have that. Cause so much it's hard being, cause I'm an alienated father. So it's hard to sit on the sidelines and just let all these things go, and all these things that you could do to help the kid, the child develop and grow and have fun and have those magical moments, and you're not allowed to for no reason whatsoever. And then they just lie and they cheat, and the corruption and all that. So, now you're advocating for parents and fathers and that are going through this right now. So I see you kind of got your fingers in a lot of different things where, you're advocating for 50-50 parenting.
Right.
And so tell us more about what you're kind of doing and trying to help in order to make change for others.
So I've been basically advocating for almost 10 years. So I started when my husband got hit with child support, and he chose not to fight because he just knew. And there's a whole story in that I post online and everything. And I'm like, well, if I can't help you, or if you don't want to, you just want to wait till they're 18, because he knew what she would put us through and the financials and everything.
Yeah.
I'm going to help people that want to be helped. So I slowly started posting on social media my story, his story, statistics, facts that I could find that would just like blow your mind. And that led me into connections with different people. So, like, over the 10 years, I feel like there's like three different levels of advocacy, right? So, you have the lower level, which is like social influencer, or I call social support, where you be a support system for the fathers or mothers going through it. You talk to them on a daily basis. You call them or they call you. I've spent hours on the phone day in and day out.
Yeah.
Thank you for unlimited. Because good, I need it, because it's day in and day out that I'm talking to a father, mostly fathers, or wives of fathers going through this. And so you have like the social advocacy of it, sharing your story, talking to fathers, just making sure that they're supported. And then you have like level two, and you have like these nonprofits or these charities that are helping fathers that are currently going through it, helping fathers in the court system now. Or you have Zach Martin with Kids Deserve Dads doing fishing trips with dad, or hiking trips with dad, or different programs that help with the mental health, or he does physical fitness to help fathers stay strong in the fight. And then you have like the third tier, where you have people like Mark Ludwig with the lawmakers, right, working to change the laws. Or like Chris Fedler out here in Florida, he's working with the laws that are in place, making sure that the cops and the lawyers and the judges are enforcing these laws, like custodial interference. And like Robert Garza, the 3-strike law, basically he's implementing that. So you have three different tiers.
Yeah, I've actually talked to Mark and to Robert. And there's also Hope and Darkness, to mention, if you haven't heard of them. They're another one that's three on the third tier that you're talking about, that help a lot of people too. They're fully involved. They do all of what you just mentioned, and for parents, and help rescue kids too. So yeah, the third tier is what I like. Action, actually people doing
Right.
stuff, and there's a lot of misleading Facebook pages too. They're just a bunch of people talking, and it just doesn't go anywhere. Like, what are you actually doing to make change? And that's what I think we're at right now. It's so bad, and it's at epidemic levels, that we need to all be on the third tier, and we need to actually unite and get things changed and make a
You said the
difference.
key word, unite. So what I've noticed over the 10 years in the movement, I feel like the fathers' rights movement is really shifting, right? It's shifting towards more of a equal shared parenting type of deal. We've recognized this isn't just a father issue. This is a female issue too, a mother issue. So we know kids do better with both parents. And that's why I really like the 50-50 shared parenting. And that's why I've joined a nonprofit organization called the parenting initiative out in Alabama with Tyler Hayes. We're going to kind of combine everything. He's working with a few of the people that work with lawmakers as well, and we're really pulling resources so we can give dads and mothers these resources, because I felt like there's really three things that you need to be successful in this, and that's education. You need to know what you're doing, what you're walking into. You need support. You need a support system, and not just your family. You need friends. You need people that know the ins and out of this, and then you need money.
Money. That's the key thing. Yeah.
The big thing.
And the frustrating thing, like I think what was the second one you need, our education. There's a lot of misleading people pretending to educate, or a lot of people that have been through it that pretend that they're acting as if they're educated and they know what they're talking about just because of an experience that they had. It's misleading. It's the same as the title of the show, The Flying Monkeys. There's all these flying monkeys around that help the alienators. And, I've seen some of your posts, and it includes the courts, it includes the guardian ad litems, it includes the psychological community, the lawyers, everybody's in there. They're all flying monkeys making their money, and the lawmakers too, because they're allowing these laws to, we're stealing money out of Social Security to pay courts back to screw parents over with a high amount of child support every month, and they get paid 60 cents or 66 cents back on the dollar, whatever it is. And it's absurd. And it's just nuts. So when you're walking back into the lion's den, pretending you're thinking you're going to get something done and changed, and you're just going back to the same. That's the one thing like Robert Garza did. He thought in those terms. So what he did in Texas was, okay, how can these guys still be making money, but change the law that's going to help the kids and the parents, so that 3 strikes law he did was pretty good, because they find the parent who doesn't follow the rules. And 50-50 is a great idea, but the courts don't implement their own rulings. When they say, okay, you got weekends here, you got this, if you break it, you're going to go to jail for 3 days and you have to pay a $1,000 fine or whatever it is, and they break it, and the court refuses to do anything about it. And what's wait a minute, you just made this rule. If I break it, I'm going to jail. But if she breaks it, no, or vice versa. It could be the other way around, because this is happening to mothers and fathers. So, we got to get to the point, like you said, where it's 50-50 up front. And then first one who breaks the rule, let's throw in that Garza law, and, you get a ticket. You got 1 strike, you get 3 strikes, you're out. And then there's a change of custody, because some of these people are very, very abusive to these children. So, you want to start off at 50-50, but whoever shows they can't be a good parent and do what's right for the child, that there's obviously a serious problem. So they need help, and therapy doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. It's just extend, because say you got a lunatic go to a therapist and start talking about things that aren't real. That's all the therapist is hearing. They won't know the difference. They're going to believe the story they're being told, and they do all their work based on something that's not real.
One side.
Exactly. Or they're very corrupt, which you see in tons of these cases. They make up complete lies. There's even people that say, the kids talk to the parent and say, Dad or Mom, I didn't say any of that. And they're writing up lies to go after one of the parents. And it's complete false lies. And then they're taking all your money. It's just absurd. So that's another wrong thing, is that the mental health thing needs to be, they need behavioral training, and not parenting classes. They need behavioral training on how to act properly. That's what these parents need. And then we can help them act better, and then we can have them in the child's life, and the child doesn't have to suffer. It can have both parents. I mean, it's such a simple answer.
And I think the judges also, they just have too much discretion, and they need education. I think a little bit more on the psychological, I can't say the word, the mental aspect of it as well, what to look for. I just don't think they have that. But I love the 50-50. I love the 3 strike law, but if they're not enforcing it, then what's the point of it?
It's the same show as that's going on right now. Yeah, I know.
So we got to find a way to make sure that the judges and lawyers and attorneys and all of them are being held accountable and actually enforcing what's in place and what we put forth as well.
Yeah. Personally, I think you just need to take it all away.
Yeah.
just, there's no need. What do you need a court for? You didn't break any laws. You're just getting a divorce. So no problem. I mean, this all could be done in a day or 2 days or a week,
But we
and
know
have
what
it
we
all
need to
sorted
do.
out.
And this movement, what I feel like this movement is lacking, the equal share of parenting and the father's rights movement is unity. You have all these subgroups and little groups here and there. They each have their own idea of how to dismantle the system. It's either their own way is going to do it one way, or it's their ego. And in my opinion, and a lot of people that I work with, what if we attack on all different angles? We attack within, we attack outside, we attack from the side, we attack from all different angles. That's how you dismantle it, not just one specific way. So that's really what me and my nonprofit has been really doing, is trying to find people that want to work together, all
exactly,
to take it down.
I love to hear that. That's exactly what needs to be done. And the other thing I notice is no one hashtags anything, or they do, they put parental alienation, but why are they not hashtagging and tagging all their congressmen and their senators and all the TV stations, whether they're going to react right away or not. But if you're constantly loading it up on their stuff, it's going to draw attention. And I think that's another thing that needs to be done, because we're all here barking and I think we're stuck in an algorithm that's manipulated and closed as well to the rest of the world.
We look like we're just, a lot of fathers in particularly, when they voice or are emotional about things, or they put their story out there, they're seen as just whining. Just pay your child support. Just do this. Get a puppy while you wait 9 months for your court date. They're not taken seriously. So I found, when I speak about my story, or I say a father's story, and I'm taken more seriously. It's the sad part in society. Yeah. So I've been a voice for a lot of these fathers, and a lot of them can't even talk about their case because it's ongoing and they'll be punished or silenced. So luckily my husband he paid his last child support check in February of this year. And I'm like, I am free. I can boast everything now. So I know how a lot of these fathers, when they finally get done, you'll see them pop up on social media. It's over. It's done.
You're free. You can talk. You can say things. Yeah, I know. Because they come after you too. So yeah. Mm-hmm. But I'm so happy to hear, what you're doing. It's awesome that you're helping fathers and mothers too, because like you mentioned, you help moms too. But it's about making change. So I definitely would like to have you on again. And let's talk about the nonprofit you're working with, and maybe have a couple of people from that all as a group. We can do a little conversation and bring that up to the table. I want to thank you so very much for coming on today and sharing your story, and keep fighting and doing what you're doing, because you're awesome. And I mean, personally, I appreciate what you're doing. It's really awesome. It's really cool.
We got to have more women calling out the bitter baby mama behavior and just the bad behavior in the court system as well.
Yeah.
So somebody's got to do it. It's going to be me.
Keep doing what you're doing, Taylor. So I thank you so much for coming on, and we'll talk again to you real soon. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
All righty.
Thanks for watching the Flying Monkey podcast. Like, follow, and subscribe to our social media sites on Facebook, X, YouTube, Rumble, TikTok, and Truth Social. You can also go straight to our webpage at www.flyingmonkeypodcast.com.
Have you been victimized by family court? Are you suffering parental alienation? It's child abuse, and it's domestic violence by proxy. Are you stuck drowning in legal and mental health bills? Get off the treadmill, escape the trap. With over 10 years of research, thousands of parent interviews and case studies worldwide, we have developed a system that works to help you get your kids back. Join the movement now. hopeindarkness.info, stoptheabuse.info, alienationacademy.com, and theflyingmonkeypodcast.com. It's time for change, and it's time to stop the abuse. Go to tinyurl.com/stop-parental-alienation.
Winter, spring, summer, or fall, too hot or too cold, give us a call. We're always here to service your needs. We treat you like family at Mountain Breeze. Heating and air conditioning, set your mind at ease with Mountain Breeze. Mountain Breeze, heating and air